scientists, as today we are going to explore the roles of organisms play and how they are important to one another in a food web. Let's get into it with our essential questions.
Now, let's talk about our essential question. Remember, essential questions in science and in different lessons can help us think about what we already know about a topic, and it helps us connect to new ideas that we're going to learn today to help us produce a new thought about the topic. Our essential questions will be focused on our different science topics. So look for key words. In those keywords, the minute you see them and recognize them, I want you to think, what do I already know about this topic? Once you have that in your mind, you want to look at the question again to see what we're trying to answer today or what are we trying to answer about that topic. It's important to remember that an essential question is like a goal as well. By the end of our science lesson, you should confidently be able to answer the essential question. Let's go over our essential question for today.
Listen as I read the first one. From what source do all food webs get their energy? Read that one with me. From what source do all food webs get their energy? The second one. What are the different parts of a food web? Read that one with me. What are the different parts of a food web? And our last one. How does the energy flow from one organism to the next in a food web? Read that one with me. How does the energy flow from one organism to the next in a food web? All right, scientists, let's get into our first activity for today. You are going to take some time as a class to watch a science crash course video called Home Sweet Habitat. As you watch this video, you're going to need a few materials, your whiteboard and markers. Your job while writing this list is to create while watching this video is to create a top 10 list. You are tasked to write the 10 most important things that you heard in the video, and you can write them out as you hear them. The video won't be paused, but it's got a few minutes in them, so you can shorten what you hear in the video to write specific bullet-pointed facts on your whiteboard. At the end of the video, you're going to take some time to share out your bulleted facts and talk about what you think the main idea was in this video. After you guys finish that, you'll come back and we'll look at an article together. To the different organizations and animals that we read about because you'll be using those in a later activity. We will start this article with just me reading, and then I'll turn it over to you guys to read as a class. The name of this article is called Keystone Species. Let's read the caption of the first picture we see up here. Follow along with me. The jaguar has varied diet in Central and South America. It acts as a keystone predator by helping to balance the animals in the jungle ecosystem by consuming 87 different species of prey. Photo from the public domain. This gives me a little bit of an idea about what our article is going to be about. I can definitely see we're talking more about food webs and how, specifically in this image, the jaguar helps balance its food web. Let's continue to read more about these animals and what makes them keystone species. Start at the top paragraph. Listen as I read. A keystone species is a life form that affects an entire ecosystem. An ecosystem is a community of plants and animals. No other creature can do the job a keystone species does. Without them, the ecosystem would have to completely change. It could even disappear completely. Any creature may be a keystone species. Most keystone species are animals that have a huge influence on food webs. A food web is the system of how plants and animals depend on each other for food. Let's look at the next heading here. Carnivores, herbivores, and mutualists. Let's read predators together. A keystone species is often a predator or hunter. Just a few of them can have a huge effect on the animal populations they hunt. In the Greater Yellowstone Ecosystem, GYE, gray wolves are a keystone species. The GYE stretches across the boundaries of the U.S. states of Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho. It includes Yellowstone National Park. The GYE includes mountains, forests, meadows, bubbly geysers, and freshwater habitats or homes for animals. The elk, bison, rabbit, and bird species are eaten by predators in the GYE. How they eat and where they nest depends on how much on what wolves do. We're going to pause here. You can see there's a picture of a wolf over here to the right. I can see on his hands here, his paws, he's got some good claws that will help him be a good hunter. Let's continue to read a little bit more together. The U.S. government set aside land for Yellowstone National Park in the late 1800s. At that time, hundreds of wolves roamed the GYE. The government feared that the wolf would hunt too many elk and bison, as well as livestock like cows. So the governments removed wolves from the GYE. The last remaining wolves in Yellowstone were killed in 1924. The removal of this key predator started a top-down change in the GYE. Without a top predator, elk populations at Yellowstone exploded. Elk herds competed for food resources. Plants, such as grasses and reeds, did not have time or space to grow back. This hurt populations of other species, such as fish, beaver, and songbirds. These animals rely on plants and their roots, flowers, wood, and seeds for survival. It wasn't just animals that were affected. Stream banks wore away. This happened because plants were no longer there to hold the soil in place. Lake and river temperatures increased as trees and shrubs no longer gave them shade. In the 1990s, the U.S. government began bringing wolves back to the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. The results have been impressive. Elk populations have shrunk, willow tree heights have increased, and beaver and songbird populations have recovered. Read more about herbivores and keystone mutualists that are keystone species in their ecosystems and environments. But that's not all. There's also other species that are crucial to ecosystems that you'll learn a little bit more about, including umbrella species, foundation species, ecosystem engineers, indicator species, and flagship species. All of these will give you a different look at some key organisms that are crucial, which means very important to an ecosystem in surviving. Just like when we read about the wolf being removed and the overpopulation of the elk coming in, affecting the plants and other animals around, it's like a domino effect. Once one thing happens, other things are going to be affected because of that. Pay attention as you read in Herbivores and Keystone Mutualists to see what is that key piece that if it's removed, it will affect the rest of that area in that ecosystem. After you complete your reading here, you'll go on to answer the questions at the end of this article as a class. Take your time to find out more about these specific organisms that are key to ecosystems. Scientist